And that's what happens when you test this scene and you don't have the same starting soon animation over every scene. But then, why would you? Testing the audio. Right, yeah, it would be nice to say it's about time I get this show underway, you know. Well, hello and welcome into this Tuesday's Entertainment News. I'm Jonathan C. Walsh, here to deliver our sort of bespoke opinion on the latest entertainment news. I say the latest entertainment news, it's actually a day old, at minimum. Because this exact same show was supposed to begin out last night, but we took our time. Well, I took my time, and ultimately we ran out of time. So I delayed the show until today. But I'm here to discuss all the latest happenings one day late. And of course, if you've clicked on the show, I am desperately scurrying around in OBS to manually select the topic. You will see that the headline of the show tonight is all about one Michael B. Jordan and his latest sort of outing as an actor, but not only as an actor, but his directorial debut in Creed 3. The reviews are in, they're raving about the movie, they are praising Michael B. Jordan's direction. I have a video playing with rugby, and this is on Screen Rant, and it's Ireland and England. I have no interest in that. And yeah, as I did say, it's on Screen Rant, I'll bring it up. It's going to be one of those shows again, where I go through all the reviews, well not all of them, but some of them that I choose, and read them, and share my thoughts on it, which is always difficult, much more difficult than you would think, because I've not seen Creed 3, so I am having to go through and live vicariously via all these crazy critiques. What I will say, and I'll add this little caveat in before I actually get into reading these reviews, as I've said many times before, just try to sort myself in this chair. I think it's only when I'm doing shows on my lonesome that I often look as though I have some strange tick where I have to continually sort myself up, but it's this chair. Sometimes it can be quite uncomfortable. This chair is crumbling. Stephen's chair, not so much, used a way less than mine. Mine's is creaking, crumbling, and often uncomfortable if you're sitting in it for long periods. What I will say as a caveat, I did read reviews, I did read reactions straight out of the premiere for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Now, I have not seen Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania as of yet, but of course the praise was glowing. It was overwhelming coming out of that theatre. And I says at that point, take it with a pinch of salt, because these guys often, and I'm concerned that the camera has froze, it's back again. Never seen that happening before. What is happening here, man, with this OBS? It's saying I have got incredible amounts of skip frames due to encoding lag. I'll need to check this before I go even further into this stream, because this stream may have to be stopped and restarted. No, it's saying excellent connection on YouTube, so it's definitely fine and dandy, but I did see a skip there, and that got me worried for a moment. Love your reactions, thank you very much, my friend, do appreciate it. We love doing the reactions. especially when it's good content, which of course the likes of Farzy most lately, and some of the Western movies we've done, Everything Everywhere All at Once, All Quiet on the Western Front. When it's good content like that, it's easy to react. Sometimes when it's bad content, it's easy to react as well. It's just that stuff that lingers in that purgatory between not being utter shite and not being exquisitely good. They can be a bit mundane. But when it's really good content, and Farzy is exceptional, that TV show, really enjoyable to react to. So we're enjoying it. I'm enjoying editing it, which is a rare thing. I am blitzing the editing. Right after this show, I'm going to be editing the episode 4 to try and get it out for tomorrow. There is no try. As Yoda says, do or do not, there is no try, and it will be done. It will be out tomorrow, barring any blockage. But yeah, where was I? I was talking about this. Massive pinch of salt before my camera rudely interrupted me. These critiques often are emotionally bought by the studios, Disney, by offering them a ticket into the premiere. They are often just subconsciously aware that they can't speak completely freely about a movie's artistic integrity, its artistic sort of brilliance or lack thereof, in case they are not bestowing the ability to go to a premiere again at some other movie in the near or distant future. So you always take these guys' sort of opinions out of a theatre with a pinch of salt. You then move forward into the reviews, and as we've seen with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I'm going to continue to compare that in this strange, way too long analogy. The reviews were mixed. We get to the movie's release, and it's just splitting people all over the place. The critiques are panning it. The audience seem to love it. Having said that, it gets a cinema grade score of B, which is not fucking good at all. That's a long-winded way of saying what I'm about to read here may or may not be true. These guys may be bought. They may be biased. They may be telling the truth. They may be completely wrong, but I'm going to go through them and read them anyway. One thing's for sure, I know they're not wrong about Michael B. Jordan and his directing, because if that guy has even an ounce of the talent that he has for acting and being charismatic and brilliant off the camera, and he can just bring that into the directing side of things behind the camera, you just know he's going to be great. He is going to be brilliant, because he is just that one talented guy. He seems to have everything. He's one of those annoying types of people you perhaps went to school with back in the day, who could play every sport to a really high level, and you're like, fuck's sake, can't you just leave something to me? You're amazing at ping pong. You're amazing at basketball. You're amazing at, I don't know, football, rugby, cricket. Fucking do everything to a really high standard, and it annoys you, but it also wows you. That's Michael B. Jordan. So I don't doubt what they're saying about that, man. But look, we'll get into it. Patrice Witherspoon. This is the start of the crazy names. Patrice Witherspoon. How do you get a French first name and a quintessential English surname? Also, a Frenchman has married, or a French woman has married into an English family. That's neither here nor there, though. This is what they had to say. If there's one thing to count on for entertainment besides Jordan's direction, it's Jonathan Majors' performance as Dame Anderson. That's one thing I got out of the trailer, was Mr. Majors looked sublime. The man was jacked to within an inch of his life. That's not even, it doesn't make sense, that saying. Just try to convey how unbelievably in shape he was in the trailers. The man is made of granite, and you can see the dedication he's brought from a sheer physicality side of things to this performance. He's a wondrous actor, Jonathan Majors. He's playing the villain. He's playing a sort of friend figure of Adonis who's turned rogue, or became perhaps jealous, envious of Adonis's fame, fortune, success. So that's good to see. The entertainment has been bestowed not just by Jordan's direction, but by Majors' performance. This should come as no surprise to long-time fans of the actor, but Majors is a force to be reckoned with. He delivers a layered and nuanced performance that will surely keep viewers glued to the screen. Jordan also delivers, though one could tell his energy was split between acting and directing duties. Still, his commitment to the physicality of the role and mental toughness of his character is impressive. That's one thing I've always loved about Michael B. Jordan. I've been watching this guy for years, better part of a decade now, perhaps even more than a decade now, as an actor, as just an individual. And you can tell he gives it 110%. I know that's not possible in terms of mathematics, it's just hyperbole. You can tell he brings everything. He brings his A-game to everything that he becomes invested in. And the physicality, the directing, doing double duty would have been fucking hard, especially as a directorial debut. But I'm glad to see that he is getting praise so far for both. Owen Gleiberman, this is a familiar name, a renowned writer for Variety, a renowned publication in Western spheres for film, just worldwide, really. Everyone knows who Variety is. Owen had this to say: Jordan, working from a script by Keenan Coogler, can't speak, and Zach Balin. The story is by Ryan Coogler, who also serves as a producer. It shows dramatic finesse in his staging of the Adonis-Dame relationship, showcasing it as a broken brotherhood that speaks to larger disruptions. The tug between loyalty and violence and dispossessed childhoods. Creed 3 is a sports drama that feels like a thriller with an urgent conscience. It's a far more dynamic movie than the proficient but formulaic Creed 2, even if it can't match the soulful filmmaking bravura of the first Creed. This is why this guy writes for Variety. Just a wondrous piece of English, that, and such a short little succinct paragraph. That's succinct and short are the same thing, so I don't know why I said that. I wouldn't be using words like bravura if I was writing a review, not even in a snippet. I'd have to search up synonym to get that word. But needless to say, it's great to see that he's got a good start in his directing career, because this guy is a young man. He's in his late 30s, I think, and he's got years and years and years, decades perhaps, of directing ahead of him. And it's nice to see the likes of Ryan Coogler in and around the scenes, perhaps serving as a producer, a shoulder to lean on, a steady hand, just a phone call away to perhaps help. Obviously, Michael in his first bow as a director, and this excites me, man, just the concept of that relationship between Dame and Adonis, the long-term sort of friendship coming from this dispossessed childhood, if you like, how that's broken down, how that's going to impact on Adonis, how it's going to impact on Dame, the sort of, my dog's getting ready to go off his head, and that's concerning, how that's going to impact on Adonis, the deconstruction. We've seen this done recently on a much more dramatic scale, and obviously Mark Madonna's The Banshees of Inisherin, the deconstruction, the dissolution, if you'd like, of a long-term friendship. Obviously that wasn't through one obviously going down a life of criminality and being jailed, the other becoming a hugely successful boxer. It was just some strange dark humour, drama driven movie on a little island in Ireland. That was a tongue twister, island in Ireland. But it's something that I'm drawn to, that concept of friendship, it's falling apart and how it impacts the two individuals. And in a raw, sort of brutal fashion in this movie, how it's going to be borne out in terms of the actual inevitable boxing bout between the two. I'm going to ditch this guy, Full Circle Cinema, James Preston Poole. As great as his name is, it's not Chris Evangelista. And this is what I'm talking about here with these critiques. Fucking Chris Evangelista. How do you go about getting a name like Evangelista? That has got to be a stage name. He has made his way to LA and tried to become a successful actor. He's failed and he's sort of just rested on the B, perhaps even the Z option of being a film critique. But he's with Slash Film, and it's a pretty decent website, Slash Film. I think it's a lot of opinion driven pieces, quite long and winded at times, but I'm going to read Chris Evangelista's just because of that name. This is what he had to say. The predictability keeps Creed free from fully taking flight. It's something you're always going to be dabbling with in a boxing movie, sadly. You can be sort of ambitious and zany and try and do things slightly different, but ultimately it's all going to come down to two guys having a difference, getting ready to training, fighting, and then perhaps they make up at the end of they want to kill each other. You're always going to be landing in that same formulaic style for a boxing movie. Just hopefully something else can elevate it, if you'd like. But he's on to say this: we know exactly where this is going from the first frame, and yet Jordan and company are able to rise above that predictability, mostly. It helps that we're invested in how this is all going to shake out, even if we can kind of figure it out ourselves. Jordan and Majors are both dynamite here. commanding the screen and creating palpable tension whenever they share a scene. You put those two guys on the screen together, man, magic is going to happen. Both towering physical specimens, both tremendous actors. I'm excited for this movie, man, cannot wait to see it. I've enjoyed the Creed franchise to date. It's been a different take on the sort of greater Rocky franchise. The Rocky franchise was done to the death. There was movies that should never have seen the light of day in that franchise, and even now Sly Stallone seems to want to go back again and again to it. It needs to be removed from him physically. He can't get back. This is the future of that franchise, potentially. Maybe be done after this. I've enjoyed what they've done with it, and hopefully predicts a landing and delivers at least a good movie. So we've got a serviceable trilogy, because I like to have good trilogies in there. There's some shite ones. We need some good ones. William Bibiani of a rap. That name rings a bell. I believe he is on Collider. Or he was on Collider. I think he's on the Schmodown with Christian Harloff. I'm pretty sure William Bibiani is a movie nut. The man knows his shit. I'm going to search him up here very briefly. Yes, he is on the Schmodown. This man is a freak. He has knowledge that mere mortals could only dream of possessing when it comes to film. Interesting to see he's a writer now. I didn't realise that. Maybe he always was. This is what I had to say. Michael B. Jordan makes his directorial debut with Creed 3. And it turns out he's an excellent filmmaker, pulling great performances out of his co-stars and himself, while capturing the series' iconic fights with strategic clarity. Cinematographer Kramer Morgenthau returns from Creed 2 and casts the film in striking angles and dense shadows, popping out bright and eye-catching colours with the pageantry of the sports kicks in. When the pageantry of the sports kicks in. I've just praised you there, William, and then you throw that in, mate, and you kind of throw it all into the fucking long grass. That is horrific, mate. But I'll not blame you, William. That should be the editor who comes in and addresses that, my man. But again, we've seen this in the trailers. We've seen the sort of interesting colour palettes. We've seen the cinematography. We've seen the popping clarity, the bright eye-catching colours when the actual fighting's happening. And it's interesting, I've always spoke about that in film, how the pictures that you're seeing, the actual visual element of a film, the cinematographer's choice of colour palettes, his choice of how he wants to present the movie, is almost of equal importance to the screenplay, to the actual performances, to the director's vision. It can all crumble if it doesn't come together cohesively, if you like. And it's certainly, it did look like an interesting, dark, well shot and popping movie in the trailers. That may be a sign that I have to round this section of the show up with one more review when I'm saying the word popping or poppy. It's time to go. Robert Butler III, Geeks of Colour. I'll end with that because he's the third of his name, and I think I'm the fourth of my name. So I like people who share the same name and you can actually put Roman numerals beside it. Lack of originality in naming the children, but it's good. It looks good. I always remember a golfer had that. I can't remember his name just now, but I do remember there was a golfer had a 2 or a 3 next to his name. This is what I had to say, Robert. Bobby. The details in Major's villainous rendition are really what makes the difference. Having just starred in the indie bodybuilder movie Magazine Dreams, Major's physique is unparalleled. It fucking is. Pound for pound outsizing old Donny in the boxing ring and the frame. Moreover, his posture is always subtly hunched over, leaving the impression he's never really had a comfortable bed in his life. And that's what I spoke about with Jonathan Majors before. That's why this guy's such an intriguing Kang the Conqueror moving forward in the MCU. He delivers little nuanced things in his performance like that, the hunching over. That's the type of thing you'd expect from a Heath Ledger as Joker, from Tom Hardy in a myriad of different movies, just analysing the character from a different perspective, deconstructing it and delivering it to the audience. Little things like hunching over, it conveys that he's not had a comfortable bed. He's had a difficult life to this point, and that shaped him into this monster that's going to pop up and try and crush Adonis and his fame and fortune and take it all for his own self, if you like. Really looking forward to the Major's performance, man. Looking forward to this guy moving forward over the next 5, 6, 7 years, what he's going to do in the MCU, what indie movies he's going to do, because he's a phenom, he's a brilliant actor. That's the most exciting part of this movie for me. It's always about the villain and your protagonist. You think of Rocky, you think of Clubber Lang, you think of Ivan Drago, you think of Apollo Creed. Not the Tommy guy from the 5th movie, because that was fucking shit. You think of the larger-than-life villains who've popped up, and our protagonists having to overcome it time and time again. This is probably the best acted villain we're going to see in any of these. I think it was Tony Bellew in the first Creed. You're a false Creed. Real-life boxer, not so much a good actor. Obviously in the second one it was some random Romanian guy portraying Ivan Drago's son, Victor Drago. In the Rocky movies, I'm thinking off the top of my head, obviously Carl Weathers, brilliant fucking actor in his own right. The rest, not so much. This could be the best acted, best cast villain in any of the sort of greater Rocky movies. And I think that's going to make for perhaps one of the best movies. When you've got two brilliant, equally gifted actors facing off against each other, showcasing not just the physicality, as I've said before, but the acting prowess that they have. I'm really, really looking forward to this movie, man. I'm glad to see the reviews are positive. I'm hoping that it's actually truthful this time and it's not all pie in the sky bollocks to get clicks. Hopefully that this will be, I don't know, echoed in the cinema score of the movie. Hopefully it's an A at least. And we then go on and get some good sort of general Joe Blows from the street echoing these sentiments, and then it makes money, because I want nothing but success for Michael B. Jordan, as I've said time and time and time again. I think the guy is fantastic. Moving on though to the next topic, speaking about fantastic, and you don't get much more fantastic than those movies there that well, not these ones that have been announced, that's yet to be addressed, and time will tell. They may be fantastic, they may be absolutely god awful, but certainly the Lord of the Rings movies of 20 years ago, some of the greatest cinema ever created, from the Antipodean mind of Peter Jackson and I think it was his wife, something Walsh, I want to say. Just wondrous movies, really, really, really wondrous movies. And yeah, what's this? Breaking news, Natu Natu from Triple R will be performed live at the Oscars. Well, I tell you what, Stephen, I wish you'd told me that. I wish you'd told me that 20 minutes ago, because that'd have been the fucking headline of the show. I would have 100% headlined the show with that. But I tell you what, after this, I'll fling that in, and I'll get rid of the GTA 6, and we'll actually discuss that. As I'm speaking right now, I'm going to search up Natu Natu, and I'll just do a little impromptu topic about that, because that's fucking massive news. Massive news. A performance at the Oscars is always a huge, huge thing, and also that means that, I mean, it would have been there anyway. Obviously, NTR Jr. and Ram Charan, you'd have expected SS Rajamouli to accompany them to the obviously the awards ceremony. But that's big news, man. I'm going to bring that up, and I'm going to speak about that after this topic here. I've already brought it up. There won't be a graphics bar for that, because it's literally just breaking. I'll speak about it nonetheless. Fran Walsh, I thought it was Fran Walsh, I was going to say that, but then Fran Healy came into my head and I'm like, no, it's not Fran Healy from Travis. I'm having a fucking stroke there when I says that. That's Travis. That's the name of the band. Why does it always rain on me? The man that went to Berlin. He's a good man, Fran Healy. Travis is the name of the band. Fran Walsh. She's fucking great. She's still with him. They're still a dynamic duo. I seen them together when they did their sort of Zoom call and reunited with the cast. I think it was for the 20th anniversary during the lockdown. They made those movies pop. They were magical. As a young sort of, I think it was perhaps I'm trying to think when they came out, the movies. I'd actually probably have to search that up as well. When the first one came out, The Fellowship of the Ring, I want to say came out roughly about 2003, 2001. Yeah, I'd have been 12 when that movie came out. Went to see it in the theatres, never forget it. Awe-inspiring experience, and it really got me hooked on J.R.R. Tolkien as the man, the myth, the legend, as the author. And yeah, just a love affair I've had for the last 20 years now. I'm now 34 years of age, and still completely in awe of what John Ronald Reuel brought to the world fucking 60, 70 years ago. The languages he gave us, the rich geographic stuff he gave us, and the stories that are Marmite. Some people can't read them, but I personally did. They whisked me off. I was wild with them. I've read those books 4 or 5 times in their entirety, and just loved those movies from 20 years ago. They were fucking amazing. The casting was on point. Orlando Bloom, obviously I'm blanking on his name, which is absolutely shocking, but John Reese something, the Welsh guy, obviously Elijah Wood, the young man that played Sam, I always forget his fucking name. Samwise Gamgee, he was in The Goonies, always blanking his name. Why am I Viggo Mortensen, of course. Ian McKellen, Sir Ian McKellen. The casting was fantastic, man. You get the late great Christopher Lee in there as well, playing Saruman. It was just on point. Sean Bean's in there, another guy that I loved from that moment onwards. Why am I talking about this? As you can see here, New Line Cinema have announced that we are going to be getting new Lord of the Rings movies. And yeah, I don't know what to make of this. I'm hoping this is something. I've not actually read this article. I'm going to read it as we go through here. This was Stephen that sent this over. I presume Stephen did read them. I am clearly not professional. I am going to read through them though and try and get a general gist of this story, where they're coming at this from, because I certainly do not want to see a remake of the original, that trilogy, a remake of the Lord of the Rings books. They've been done. They are true artistic genius. They will never be topped, and we don't need it. It's only 20 years ago. Maybe in another 20 years we can think about it, try to redo it, but it's way too soon. And I'm not for it probably even 20 years from now either, because it just can't be topped, what Peter Jackson gave us. So I'm going to be intrigued to go through this, and it'll be a learning experience for me and the viewer, I hope. And this is what I'm going to read. I'm going to read this. New Lord of the Rings films are in production from the same studio that created the landmark film trilogy, which ran from 2001 through 2003. It's fucking right there. John Rhys Davies, Sean Astin. I had Sean in my head, but I can never remember the Astin. I don't know why. He's a class guy. Brilliant guy. I don't know what it is about him. He looks like potentially a character that could pop up in an Edgar Wright movie alongside Simon Pegg. He just gives me that vibe. He could pop up as a sort of like stout little English guy in a pub. Not even a primary character. He's just like a side character drinking stout and sort of glaring at the Simon Pegg protagonist. And then later on he gets fucking drop kicked when shotguns are getting unleashed and stuff like that. I'm basically just giving you hot fuzz with Sean Astin. He's always struck me as being that kind of guy, but yeah, he's a brilliant actor, brilliant dude, but I can never remember his fucking name, and it's probably because I've never seen The Goonies. But we'll go through this. Something about the way I said that there so it gave me Alan Partridge vibes. I don't know why. Oh, I love Alan. But this is what they've said. The films which brought the world of Orford GR. We know about this, man. We don't fucking care about this shit. Get to the meat and bones of this. Today, Warner Brothers Pictures announced that, sound right, that the New Line Entertainment and Middle-earth Enterprises are collaborating on multiple feature films set in the Lord of the Rings universe. This multi-year agreement came after New Line acquired Middle-earth Enterprises. These films, which will be based on both the Lord of the Rings and fuck, God, don't do it, will be new projects in addition to the anime film The Lord of the Rings, The War of Rohirrim. That sounds interesting, The War of Rohirrim. Rohirrim. An anime movie in that style. Getting a hardcore sort of anime specialist director in to do that, because that is just an art form unto itself. There's a whole world out there just waiting to be tapped into that we don't even know where to start with. We've dabbled with reacting to that, doing watch alongs to that. We don't even know where to fucking start. That would be very interesting. Just the artistic style of that sounds brilliant to me. It's production as well. What could these Lord of the Rings films be? I guess we've not got any more meat to the bones of this. It's just been an announcement. We're going to be making movies. I know for a fact it won't be from the Silmarillion, because the Tolkien estate hold that closer than close. Like a fucking pro poker player, they are not giving up the rights to that. They just aren't, man. I can't envisage films being based on the Silmarillion ever being released, really. Obviously the actual Rings of Power on Amazon was vaguely set in that timeline, the Second Age I believe of Middle Earth, but they didn't have the rights. It was just the appendices of the Lord of the Rings, which were fucking massive and gave a lot of information. which is what you've got to love about Tolkien. He's created such a rich world that even the appendices are worth reading. I hope I'm saying that right. But the point being, I'd be very, very much highly dubious of any work out of the Silmarillion ever being adapted to film. But we'll see. While it's possible they will be straightforward remakes, and of The Hobbit, also the other 3 books, that seems rather unlikely. It is telling that they announced the new projects would be based on The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit rather than Tolkien's posthumously published work, The Silmarillion. Yeah, I mean, that's not going to happen. We know that's not going to happen, as I did say. What would be interesting to me with this would be perhaps coming at it from a different angle. Perhaps, I don't know, it's almost like Endgame, where you're going back in time and you're seeing it from a different perspective. Also, we can't remake the elaborate sets and fucking de-age all of these actors. Some of these actors are dead that were in the original trilogy. But in a sense, what I'm saying, perhaps giving us backstory to some of the major characters who popped up, the likes of, I don't know, Legolas, the likes of, I don't know, Elrond. Getting back, again, that would tie into stuff in the Silmarillion. I don't know how that would fucking work. But just doing something different, almost like the War of Rohirrim. Doing something different, retelling brilliant epic stories that popped up and were vaguely mentioned in The Lord of the Rings, but not fully fleshed out because there was a fucking full-on war to save the actual Middle-earth happening, and they didn't have time to really embellish much more. Doing something different, man, focusing on, I don't know, fucking characters. Aragorn, how he rose from this kid to a Nemorian, one of the last, if not the last Nemorians, to being in and around the elves of Rivendell. Something like that. I don't know how they could do it, man. It's interesting that they are potentially getting back to this world. I think if nothing else, it's perhaps not been a complete critical success, perhaps even not been a complete success with the entire Lord of the Rings fandom, but the Rings of Power TV show has definitely shown that there is an interest, I feel, in the Lord of the Rings. It's an IP that is very much alive and kicking, and there is great scope to do things with it. It's just getting the Tolkien estate to fucking give you the meat and bones of perhaps a Silmarillion. There's so many great stories in there, man. There's a whole history of this landscape, the rise and fall of full-on empires and fucking Morgoth and huge spiders, Goliath I think it was. There's so much going on, the elves, rich history, the children of Hurin. There's so many incredible characters in this incredible world over millennia, and you could just tell hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of great content via TV, via fucking multiple movies in this world. Sadly for me though, they just do not have the rights to that content to make that happening. So what we are then left wondering is, where the fuck do you take stories, new films based in and around the events of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit when it's already been done? The Hobbit has 3 movies out of like I don't know how long The Hobbit is, but it's much shorter than all of the Lord of the Rings books. It's a children's novel. It was intended for children. It's now became universal, multi-demographic as times went by because it's a fucking great book, but initially intended as a children's novel. The Lord of the Rings has been done, as I said, without repeating myself. It's some of the greatest cinema ever created from Peter Jackson, from Winged Up Productions, as Stephen did say. Where do you take these new movies? How many movies are we going to get? Is it just 1 or 2? As you can see here, focus on... I mean, even if the new story choose not to focus, how can we not focus on the iconic characters in and around that story though? How can we make works based off of The Lord of the Rings and not focus on Legolas, Gandalf, Aragorn, Frodo, Meriadoc Brandybuck, Peregrine Took? How the fuck do you not do it? I mean, you have got the likes of Tom Bombadil, who was an interesting, sort of strange character in his own right, who was famously cut out of the Jackson movies because it was a slightly meandering and incredibly slow part of that first book. Something that I almost always want to get over as soon as they happen upon it. The forbidden, what was it, the old forest? I'm trying to remember the name now of that forest based in and around, obviously, the Shire, at the tail end of a Shire next to Bree. I always wanted to skip by that because it's so fucking slow and it takes place over like a week and it bogs the original story down so much, and I was glad that Peter Jackson, in hindsight, when I read the books afterwards, that he cut that character out. As interesting as he is, he ain't enough to be focusing on for a movie. So it really comes down to what they have in mind here, what their intentions are for these movies. That will make or break whether I am on board for this. If they're going to remake the original movies, forget about it. I will not even entertain it. I will not be in a theatre watching it. I don't give a fuck who they cast. I don't care how much money they throw at it. You ain't beating the Jackson movies. They are the gold bar, the diamond bar, the platinum bar. It ain't falling. And then, as I says, what have you got left after that? I don't know. It's interesting. Time will tell where they're going to go with it. But look, I am going to jump on that news that Stephen just dropped in the chat and give my thoughts on that before finishing on the Beatles and the Rolling Stones getting together. And it's about Natu Natu. Natu Natu is going to be performed live at the Oscars ceremony in about it's coming up short. I think it's the end of March. I want to say early April, the Oscars. I'm sure they'll tell me in this article here, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. Natu Natu is set to be performed. Ready to dance, they say. It's coming to the Oscars. Break out those suspenders and dancing shoes. Believe me, I would love nothing more than to break out a nice brown, I'm just looking at my dog, brown pair of shoes. And those tremendous suspenders, man. These guys are just rocking to get up. I love the costume design in that movie. It's just tremendous. You look at just the outfits, man, the little details in there, the little sort of Nubok stuff going on. It's just a fucking great movie. It's so colourful. Look at the set design, man. It's great. Look at that logo. To me, that is one of the greatest logos ever put to sort of, I don't know. What could you even say for that? What saying could I use? One of the greatest logos ever made for film. There's just something about it, man. The way it pops, the way it's angled, the fact it's coins. I love it, man. I tried my damnedest to recreate it. I think I did a decent enough job, but it wasn't quite up to that standard. And just also the hands clasped in the middle. But look, that's neither here nor there. As you can see here, break out those suspenders and dancing shoes. M.M. Keeravani's joyously energetic anthem Natu Natu will be performed at the Oscars, the show's producers said Tuesday. With music by Keeravani and lyrics by Chandra Bose, Natu Natu is one of the most memorable sequences from the Telugu language action epic Triple R, with its catchy tune and accompanying dance by actors Ram Charan and N.T. Rama Rao Jr. I just say N.T.R. Jr., it's much easier. Singers, I hope they are there to dance, man. I sincerely hope it's not just a performance in terms of the song. I want to see these two actors there delivering a performance. Because for me, if they're going to perform it, it's almost certain to me that this is going to win the Oscar. This is nominated for an Oscar, I'm pretty fucking sure it is. I'm pretty sure I think we discussed that. It's definitely nominated for an Oscar. It didn't get nominated for foreign language, sadly. But I'd love to see these two going over. I don't know if they are going to go over. But as you can see here, they're going to make the journey. Rahul Siplagunj, if that's how you say the name, Gun, and Kala Bhairava. Bye, come on. Bye means brother, John. You say that all the time. Sometimes accidentally, when walking your dog. Come by. And it's like boy and I don't know, something mixed in, but I say bye a lot, accidentally. So it's Kala Bhairava. They're going to be performing at the Dolby Theatre in Los Angeles. And as you can see here, Natu Natu has become a viral sensation outside of the film, racking up over 122 million views on YouTube and inspiring a TikTok challenge where users attempt to recreate the acrobatic dance of South Korean ambassador Chang Jae-bok's 53-second rendition has gotten over 4.8 million views since it was posted Sunday on Twitter. This movie's hype, the sort of recognition it's getting, is never ending, man. It just goes on and on and on and on and on, and I'm here for it, man. I love it. I'm loving it. Because it deserves it. Rajamouli deserves it. The actors deserve it. The song deserves it. It's such a catchy, brilliant little tune, man. Thoroughly hoping that it does win the Oscar, has to be said. As you can see here, the tune's competing for Best Original Song trophy, the Blockbuster Soul nomination against the likes of Lady Gaga, Rihanna, Mitski, David Byrne and Diane Warren. Rihanna will also be performing Lift Me Up, and Black Panther Wakanda Forever from Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Don't know why I struggled to say that on Oscar night. Look, I'm going to be honest, I watched Black Panther and I did enjoy it as a movie, it has to be said. It's one of the better MCU movies of the last phase, 2-3 years if you like. But her song is nowhere near as good, nowhere near as infectiously brilliant as Natu Natu. It's nowhere near as earworm inducing as Natu Natu. And it doesn't have the dancing prowess of two fucking superstars from India propping it up and giving it that extra element, that dynamic if you like. For me, Natu Natu is the clear winner. I've been saying this for months since I watched the movie, reacted to it. It's the best song in a cinematic project for the calendar year of 2022. No other song comes close. It's the best structured song, it's the best produced song, it's the best sung song, it's the best performed song in terms of dancing. As an all-round package, it is fucking fantastic and thoroughly deserving of the hype it's getting. I will tune into the Oscars anyway because I'm up late as hell, and I think I'll probably miss the last major categories, but I think I will be up late enough to maybe catch Natu Natu being performed, and I'm fucking there for it, man. I hope the two actors are doing a thing. But yeah, thank you, Stephen, for dropping that into the chat there, man, and giving us that extra little topic. It has meant the GTA chat has dropped out. Needless to say, GTA is going to be getting announced this year. Shock horror, and it's going to be getting announced in style, apparently. I'll just quickly delve into it now, why not? Look, I'm here for GTA 6 as well, I cannot wait. It's been way too long since that last one came out, GTA 5. A decade now. They've ripped the entrails out of it with the online stuff. It's got some of the greatest RP servers ever created for video games. It's still going strong just now. Some of the biggest content creators on Twitch are just living alternative lives in GTA Online. It's been modded to high heavens. It was a hugely successful game. Fucking 3 different generations of consoles got to live it. But it's time, man. It's time for a GTA 6. It's time to be introduced to new gangsters, wannabe gangsters, wondrous stories, and a new thriving online sort of ecosystem, just world in general. I cannot wait, man. After Red Dead's one. It's probably the greatest game, single player anyway, game ever made. The detail was just off the charts. That you speak about gold standards. What Rockstar accomplished with that game, the level of detail, down to characters eating and finishing their food, evolution of a world. That is the absolute best open world game ever fucking made. And I'm just looking at this top, and it looks on this actual screen as if the seam is the wrong way round, but I can assure you, it almost certainly is not. It's one of these fucking baggy t-shirts that I like to wear, where if you straighten your shoulders out, you look like fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger of 1988. I mean, I've decent build, but I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger of 1988, I have to say. But this t-shirt can often make you look like, yeah, you can kind of lift yourself up and you're filling the whole screen. Needless to say, man, I'm here for GTA 6 as well. It's not a surprise. It's going to be getting announced this year, but yeah, Natu Natu, fucking buzzing for it, man. Fully deserves all of the praise it's getting. I'm going to end on this, and this is coming in from NME. I've not read this article either. I usually leave that to Stephen. Stephen's a sort of showrunner when we do live shows. He is the guy that goes in and sort of copies and pastes out all the relevant information on the iPad or whatever. And he goes through it and he reads the articles, and then he asks me my opinion on it, and I get to be a nice lazy fucker. I just produce the show and flick a couple of things and boom, it goes on its sort of merry way. I don't usually have to go through and read these things, but needless to say, I mean, I think I know enough about the Rolling Stones and the Beatles certainly to give an opinion on this, if indeed that this is an opinion piece. And I think just from this here, it is. This is coming in from Mark Beaumont. Our columnist argues they should have kept a respectful distance. Of course, this is because Paul McCartney and I believe Richard Starkey, Ringo Starr of course, they're going to be collaborating with the Rolling Stones in a new song, perhaps a new album. I don't know the actual meat and bones. I did see the headline last week. I think it's a new song for starters anyway. Historic moment really for fans of the two acts. Obviously they're not the Beatles anymore, they're certainly not the Rolling Stones anymore. We don't have Brian Jones, we don't have Charlie Watts, we don't have George Harrison and John Lennon on this mortal coil anymore. They are sort of bit parts now of what used to be great bands. Of course the Beatles were a greater band because they are undoubtedly a better band than the Rolling Stones. That's not even up for debate. Anyone wants to come in and debate that with me, they can certainly try in the comments, but I will fucking run rings round them. A big moment though, these two acts getting together, two historically rival bands. There was a lot of stuff wrote and a lot of drama attempted to be churned up surrounding the two. They were trying to create rivalry. But certainly from what I've seen from interviews with Keith Richards and Mick Jagger, certainly what I've seen from the anthology, there was never any real animosity between these two groups. They respected each other tremendously. They were doing different things really. The Stones were always more of a blues band, really grimy rock band. The Beatles were more experimental, pop sort of, heartthrobs who developed into something truly extraordinary. They were extraordinary from the start, but they get better and better and better over the sort of 7 years of their, at least album years. But they were a better band, they were different bands, and there was no real animosity between the two by all accounts. They had great respect for each other, but yeah, it was churned up anyway. People try to create this controversy, and I don't think anyone could have envisaged maybe 50 years ago those two groups getting together and collabing on something and actually making a song together. So this should be an epic moment for music. It should be dancing in the street. Like, I think was Mick Jagger involved in that? I always want to fucking bring it up. I always get mixed up with that and Under Pressure. Was Mick Jagger in Dancing in the Street? I want to say he was. I don't know. He was. Under Pressure was Freddie Mercury. I'm pretty sure Mick Jagger and David Bowie had done Dancing in the Street. What's the fucking... I'm having them doubt myself here. The real estate should have been like something like that. A huge collaboration. But of course, they're much, much older now. I mean, you just have to look at fucking Mick. You just have to look at Paul. Ringo looks fucking like 50 because he keeps dyeing his hair. And he's aging well, it has to be said. But they're older gentlemen now. And they're way past their prime. They really are. I've seen Paul perform. He's doing a grand job continuing on for the love of it. Certainly doesn't need the money. And he's bringing that performance for as long as he can to people who are willing listeners. We went and seen Paul, me and Stephen, back in 2010, 13 years ago, and it was a brilliant experience. Even then, he wasn't anywhere near what he was in the mid-90s, let alone back in the 60s, 70s. But it was still truly great to see this man, towering figure, live doing his thing. Now though, I mean, he has lost something palpable. He's been propped up by the backing singers, his guitarist, his sort of drummer in the band. And they're still delivering a sort of brilliant package live, but he's lost something. And certainly Mick has lost something. Ringo never had as much as perhaps, well, I mean, he probably had as much as Mick, but certainly not as much as Paul. This guy got a #1 in America, for fuck's sake. But he didn't have as much to lose, so, I mean, he's still great, Ringo. But there is something definitely been lost palpable, and I'm going to read this and see if I agree, but I find myself potentially agreeing here. They should have let history be. This would have been great 50 years ago and not so much now. To keep a short story for a long story short. I could have just fucking says that instead of speaking for like 10-15 minutes, going round in circles, tying myself in fucking knots. That's the last time I swear. I swore too much tonight. We'll get into it. The worst thing that ever happened to the Alien franchise was the Predator franchise. Two entirely different universes with distinct tones, rules and atmospheres lumped together for Alien v Predator in the name of cynical audience conglomeration. Likewise, Batman and Superman, Freddy and Jason, James Corden and any other celebrity in the car. That I do agree with. Music, of course, has been merging major franchises ever since Duke Ellington, Dina Washington and Nat King Cole shared a chemical toilet on the jazz tours of the early 50s. Between the countless collaborations, festival bills, encore guest spots, joint tours, supergroups and Gorillaz, like we did there, Gorillaz have got a new song out, it's pretty good, I like it, sort of tropical vibe going on with it, really good. Your man Albarn just knows what he's doing. Anyway, I digress. Experts now estimate that every musician on the planet will have played with every other one by February 2026, so ubiquitous are pop crossovers and high profile featurings that we become blasé about them. Having grown, bloated and overfed with superfluous chunks of Mary J. Blige, Dave Grohl's on stage at Glastonbury with you. That all you got? Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Dave Grohl coming on the stage at Glastonbury. He's just playing a guitar. I think he done, what was it, Dilligan Band in the run? Nothing wrong with that. Dave's a big Beatles man. You can never get enough Dave Grohl. This is a long article, I don't think I can go through it all. Needless to say, as you can see here, announcement, biggest crossover of musical franchises imaginable. The Avengers assemble of 60s legends. The Cats does Countdown of Rock. Paul McCartney has joined Sonic forces with the Rolling Stones, but I'm pretty sure Ringo's involved as well. I am sure he is. The Beatles and the Stones together at last. The Vibe at NME's sister publication Uncut could possibly for the first time in its existence currently be described as horny. The bolt from roughly 60 years ago out of the 60 years of blue is all the more surprising since it arrives just 2 years after Paul McCartney dismissed the Stones in an interview with the New Yorker as a blues covers band. He's fucking right, they were. Mac has notes to Keith Richards the day after publication, claiming that he'd been talking about what he thought of the Stones when he first heard them. Must have been gracious in the extreme. For here we are with a historic chance to finally unite the two mightiest rock acts playing together in public for the very first time. They did, obviously John did what with Keith's blues jam, the Dirty Mac, that was great. I'm pretty sure we got Yeah Blues played, there was a couple other things in there. Also John and Mick were having fucking beans or soup or something like that on a fucking plate. That's what they did back then. They took heroin and ate just garbage. Music like that was fucking great, but that was a super group, man. That wasn't just the Stones and the Beatles come together. And it was 50, 60 years ago. 50 years ago. As you can see here, way down the queue of joint, blah blah blah. I'm just going to try and get to the meat and bones of this because the time is going on and I've read nearly a whole article and that's not great. I don't want to be doing that. Just get to the point, please, mate. Fuck's sake. We know the history. We know the history of the Beatles. Can you get to the opinion piece here, my man? I don't want to be doing this. This is almost like Bruce Almighty levels of breakdown in front of a camera. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. I can't remember the actual fucking quote. It's been a while since I've seen it. That's what I'm having here. Try to find this guy's opinion piece. Yeah. Look, man, I'm just going to cut to the chase. It's 50 years too late. It's 50 years too late. I'll give my opinion. If this was something that happened before I was born and I grew up listening to it, I'd be all for it, man. Because the two bands were fucking amazing. They were doing different things. I think they could have combined and gave us some truly stunning, iconic stuff. They could have done an album together and it would have meshed together beautifully. Because let's be honest, the Beatles were doing something, the Stones were copying it to a lesser degree, just 4 months down the road. So they were already kind of inadvertently collabing at a distance. They were doing lesser things. If they could have got in the room with the Beatles and maybe added their own little elements, little touches to a song, we would have got something fucking truly special. I wouldn't have known about it because I would have been but a twinkle in my grandmother or my grandfather's eyes at that point. But needless to say, it would have been great and I'd have grew up with it and I'd have loved it. Now though, in 2023, when they're in their late 70s, 80s, not so much, man. They are past their sell-by date in terms of creating new music, and it pains me to say that about Paul. The Stones have been going for forever. Their output has been getting gradually diminished again and again and again. You can make a strong argument for the Stones that they were never the same band after Brian Jones lost his sort of creative output to drugs and ended up face down in a pool, dead. He was the true brains, one of the founding members of that band, and offered so much on an instrumental level to the band. Once he went, it just became samey. It was the same shit. It was great shit, but it was the same shit. And even then it was the same shit. When Brian Jones was there, he was just flinging xylophones into it and saxophones. So, I mean, it would have been fucking great, but it's 2023. They're past the sell-by date. The Stones have been doing the same shit, the same old fucking stuff for the last 30 years now. It's like Elton John, just hang up the guitars, please. Jam in your house, have a great time, hang it up. With Paul, as I said before, 13 years ago I seen him. He was brilliant, but he was losing something then. Now, his output hasn't been the same, man. And ultimately it is too late for me. It's too late, it shouldn't be happening. I'll obviously listen to it when it comes out, but it shouldn't be happening for me. So yes, I agree. They should have let history be. They should have. And I'm glad John's not here, because he would have been fucking kicking up one hellacious storm. Because John, that's what he did. He would not have had anything to do with it, I'm absolutely certain. This is all Macca. Macca trying to be a crowd pleaser. That's why he worked with Kanye, wasn't it? Kanye, who's now been outed as an anti-Semite. Brilliant. That's why I shouldn't collab. But look, man, I'm done. What's your thoughts on the topics I've touched upon on the show? There was one flung in that was sort of, yes, thrown at me from the comments by Stephen. And I just simply had to grasp it. It was big news. Natu Natu being performed at the Oscars. But what do you make of the headline? Creed 3, early reviews suggesting that Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut is sublime. The movie itself is pretty enjoyable. A little bit formulaic, but enjoyable nonetheless, with a truly wondrous villainous turn from Jonathan Majors. Share your thoughts down below about that. Maybe you're looking forward to going and seeing it. I've loved all the Creed movies. I will be there to watch this movie, just to support Michael B. Jordan, a man I truly do. I'm inspired by the guy. I think he's a great guy off the camera. I loved his work for the last 10 years and wish him nothing but success. Share your thoughts about that down below. What do you make about The Lord of the Rings? New movies being made by New Line Cinema, Warner Brothers Pictures. They are combining forces to give us new Lord of the Rings movies. Do you agree with it? How can it even happen? I don't want a remake. How the fuck are they going to do something without the Fellowship being the centre of the piece, set in the timeline of The Hobbit to The Lord of the Rings? What's your thoughts? Share your thoughts down below about that. What do you make about Natu Natu popping up at the Oscars to be performed in the ceremony? For me, one of the best songs, if not the best, for me it is the best song of 2022 and a cinematic sort of experience. Hope it wins the Oscar. I'm thoroughly delighted about that now. Share your thoughts about that. Share your thoughts about GTA 6 getting announced this year in a big bombastic way. And finally, did the Beatles and the Stones leave it too late? Of course they did, because they're not even the Beatles and the Stones anymore. There's no Charlie Watts, there's no Brian Jones, there's no John Lennon, there's no George Harrison. They're not even those bands anymore. Should they have let history be? I sincerely think they should have. Share your thoughts about that. Anything you feel compelled to share can go down below in the comments section. It's the place to put it. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to get notifications straight to your eyeballs. Do the same thing over on Twitch. Follow button, notifications button over there to see us doing my thing on a different platform, but it's the exact same thing essentially. Just because. All that's left to be said is thank you for watching. If you've got through this 58 minutes, then fuck me, you deserve a medal. I appreciate it. And until next time, I am done.